Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here. This is the Astrological Winds channel. Now I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of October 3rd through 9th. And there's not a real lot of stuff going on this week. The main thing is our full moon next weekend on Sunday. We've got a full moon in Aries at 17 degrees and it's conjunct Chiron. And also makes a couple other aspects. And also this is the week Pluto goes direct. Mercury has already gone direct. So a couple other little things to talk about too. But first, a little bit of business here to take care of in the beginning in case you don't make it through to the end of the blog. The Astrological Winds channel is a free service that I offer every week. And what I'd really like all of you to do is when you're done listening to the blog to please pass the link on to someone else you think might be interested in it. I know there's no guarantees, but we'd love to just keep growing organically that way with the blog, and it has been doing that. I really appreciate that. So that's the best way you guys can support me. Also, I am a professional astrologer. I've been giving readings for over 20 years now. And the best other way to support me is if you need a reading or if you know anyone who's looking for an astrology reading, please get in touch with me and we can discuss how to set that up. Best way to do that is through my email, and that is mattHue823@gmail.com. That's mattHue823@gmail.com. Now remember, the blog is usually just me talking to the camera right now, so there's really no reason to watch video if you don't want to. It's also available on all kinds of podcasts. It's distributed through Buzzsprout every week, and I know it's on stuff like Spotify and Reveal and Apple Live. So just look up Astrological Winds channel. Also, if you have a Instagram account, look up Astrological Winds channel. I post the link to the blog there every week. Plus, I post extra stuff during the week, not audio or video, just some comments on certain days and things like that. Like for instance, this past week when we had the hurricane hit the U.S., I had mentioned about a week ago in my quarterly U.S. look at the next quarter that there was a real good chance we'd get a major natural disaster this quarter, and sure enough, we have now had that, one of the biggest hurricanes to ever hit the United States. And, just saw that Uranus conjuncting our ascendant and realized, this was a real strong possibility. So, talked about that a little bit on Instagram. And I also have the link posted on my Facebook account, which is a private account. So you have to friend me first. And that's Matthew with 2 T's, Lauten, Lawton. And also my Venmo handle is at Matthew-Lawton, Lauten. And anyone would like to give a donation to the blog, any amount is not too small, and all amounts are appreciated. Okay, so that's the main stuff. I'll go over some other stuff, but you want to get to the blog now. So the week begins. There's not a lot of activity in the early part of the week, and on Wednesday there's a couple of little things here. Jupiter is quincunx Ceres, and I really think that just fits in once again with a lot of the stuff I talked about in the September monthly, not the October one from last week, about how, this whole fall period is really showing a lot of stressful energy on resources, and that is, economy and the security that resources brings us. And Ceres is the main asteroid of the asteroid belt, one of the main 4 asteroids, and it has to do with getting those needs met, those basic nurturing needs that we all need to have, literally like food and, a safe place to be, a hearth or home to come to, and the emotional support that we need from loved ones. So when Jupiter is quincunx Ceres, I kind of see it as like having to make adjustments in those areas once again, having to review things, having to bring things back and rework maybe the ideas about the way we these resources right now, especially in a time when they seem to be tighter, like having to like be careful about how we, what our plans are, whether we have the resource available, and review and rethink a lot of those things. But it also has a lot to do, it can have a lot to do with having to take care of others. There may be situations that come up where people are not able to take care of these basic needs in your life, and you may have to take on the role of a caretaker in some way. Now, the issue with that is it can really get easy to fall into over-parenting people too in that situation with this energy. So it's very interesting on a lot of those levels. And one of the things too that can happen with this one is if we're not dealing with the needs that we have well, the resources and needs that we have well, then it can really kind of make us fall back into like things to like shield us from the emotions of that, from the fears maybe even of that, and so we may fall into addiction type patterns, or looking for ways to escape that energy by like comforting ourselves somehow, like like comfort foods or something like that, so we have to. And then that's another thing too, sometimes we can overdo, like I said, we can overdo our caretaking in this, and have a hard time saying no, when to draw the line and say we can't take on anymore. So it's a very interesting aspect of like having to review and adjust a lot of our nurturing needs and the needs of others around us, and how we can find somehow of adjusting and making balance to that. And on that same day, Vesta goes direct. That's the asteroid that represents groups of people that you are connected to because your behaviors are very similar. And when it goes direct, that means like some of those connections maybe have slowed down the last couple months or so, and they're going to start to manifest and become more acute in our lives again. So also this week, earlier on Thursday, is the third and final hit of Mercury trining Pluto. And I went really into detail on this last week, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But this is when we can really look at the psychological changes that have been going on throughout this Mercury retrograde period of the last 3 weeks, that are inner, that came from the inside, and now see how like new ideas that we got, new insights that we got, new information that we got that was very kind of profound and really magnetic and interesting to us, can now be brought out into the outer world, and we can like really start to push that kind of energy. Like, I don't want to say coerce, this is more of a gentle kind of pushing, where we want to present that energy to the outer world. And a lot of that may just have to do with like what we need to do as far as the research, the info we need, getting into the details of the things we need to do to plan things. But we have like a lot of deep stuff came up probably in the last 3 weeks that had a lot of profound influence on us inside. So now this is a time we can start to, bring those changes outside. And interestingly enough, on Saturday, Pluto goes direct. So Mercury went direct this last weekend. Next weekend, Pluto goes direct. So both these planets are ready to move forward. Now, this is a time when we can really push those ideas, and like I said, in a more harmonious way. We won't get as much pushback from other people. They're going to be receptive to some of the stuff, and the right people. So, the Pluto retrograde, as I said in the monthly last week, it's a very subtle shift. Pluto goes retrograde for over 5 months. It's almost half the year. So it's a very subtle background shift. And in really the last 5 months or so, it's very similar to what I was just saying. Probably a lot of inner change going on. A lot of stuff that you saw in your own psyche, in your own subconscious, in your own emotional, reactionary makeup. A lot of insight into like how that's operating with you, and now kind of feeling a little bit more in power or control of those energies, and being able to now bring those out into the world in a more self-empowering way. So I think it'll be a nice subtle shift. And like I said, it's a subtle shift really, because it's such a background planet, but both these things going forward now, planets, and trining one another. So that energy should really flow of wanting to bring the inner transformation into the outer world. Okay, our big thing this week is the Sunday's full moon in Aries. It's at 17 degrees, so that's where you want to look in your chart. 17 degrees of Aries and Libra. And those two houses are going to be the ones that you're going to feel the effects of this full moon in your personal life in the most. Now remember, full moon in Aries is opposite the sun in Libra, so this is the relationship axis. It's all about me versus my relationships with others and how we learn through that. And so the opposition sets up this tense energy between two different drives that we have. And interestingly enough, too, this conjunction, it's conjunct Chiron, so the sun is opposite Chiron, and at the same time the moon's opposite Venus, so the sun is conjunct Venus, and they both are in contact with Saturn, too. The moon is sextile Saturn, and the sun is trine Saturn. So here, the moon in Aries is all about adventure. It's always looking for something new, and it's very self-motivated. It's very subjective, and that something new is like a rush of adrenaline for the moon in Aries. That literally gets us off. It motivates us. We want a new adventure. We want to go to a new horizon and find what treasures we can there. And so the problem with that is it's very self-involved. It's very wrapped up in itself. And if it's not getting response from other people, it will start to even do negative type behavior attention getters, or we will start disputes, we will argue, we will fight, we will want a good battle even, just to get responses from people. So it can create a lot of difficult energy, therefore, in relationships, because now we have the sun in Libra, which is our other drive going on, and we are trying at this time of the year to try to make connections with others. But what this full moon in in Aries can do is jeopardize a lot of those relationships or stress them out because we're too involved in our own way and not be willing to compromise. So we have to tap in to that sun in Libra if we want to find the balance here. And one of the big things about Aries, that Aries moon, Aries energy, is to find that sense of adventure in our everyday life and get that emotional satisfaction from just looking at what we do in our relationships, like in Libra, like how we take care of others and stuff as a sense of adventure. And it may not be some grand, broad horizon every day, but if we can take up that attitude that every day is an adventure and every day has a new horizon, and that we need to take into account other people too, our close relationships and how that fits in. And here's the moon conjunct Chiron and the sun opposite Chiron, showing the sensitivity that a lot of relationships has reached right now. A very, very sensitive, and even the moon opposite Venus, same thing. Very, very sensitive energy right now. It's the type of energy that's easily hurt. Just like some kind of remark or something can be very, very painful. And so we're trying to find some kind of balance between our need, for emotional excitement and adventure, and also our need to relate to others without throwing them off. Now, we could get a little bit of help from a sextile to Saturn. This shows that we can try to discipline ourselves to, try to bring in the energy and create compromise sit down at the table and really discuss and negotiate and compromise with the other party on how both people's needs can be met. And with the sun trining Saturn at the same time, this can build a new solid foundation for relationships. But it's all really about having to discipline ourselves. And what's interesting about this too, this full moon, is that it's ruled by Mars. Okay, it's the moon in Aries, so it's ruled by Mars, and Mars is not really in a good position right now. It's locked into a T-square with Mercury and Neptune this week, and so it's showing that like a lot of the things that we're trying to push right now are not aligned really with reality. It's almost as if our ideals are off. And what that can do is we can get very discouraged or disheartened easily when others, once again the Libra part, kind of pull the air out of our balloon somehow by their reality. It might be that harsh Aries kind of energy that they may bring and like really pull the air out of our balloon. And there's that Venus and Chiron there. We could feel really sensitive and hurt by that, and that will suck the motivation out of what we want to do. So it's a very tricky one, and it really shows we have to, and to top that off, in a square to Mercury, that means we're getting resentment out of that too, that whoever we're perceiving as being the ones who are not able to live up to those ideals or are disheartening us somehow, that you end up getting like resentful towards those people, angry, irritated. So it's a very tough energy. And it's interesting, the open end of the T-square is Sagittarius. So what that's saying is the resolution is to almost be like that Aries moon, is to like go on the adventure, show people how to do it. Maybe try not to be as it's difficult with Aries and Sag. It's going to be difficult to try not to be so wrapped up in where that adventure is that you kind of lose others on the way. They just kind of can't keep up with you or don't see what you see. So it's not an easy thing. But when you think about the open end of the T-square being Sag, it's kind of like, well, maybe I need to lead this. Maybe I need to show people how this can be done. It's interesting too that Mars is sextiling Eris, so there is opportunity. Just like the sextile of Saturn to the full moon, there are opportunities in here to change things. And with Mars Neptune too, I think our actions will have to be measured. Like they'll have to be like a slow, measured action, because we're just not, at times our energy is just going to be sucked out of us, and pulled out of us. So if we can be like more measured about it and not so much stuck on the ideals of all of it, then we might be able to make some more progress. And if we're feeling like that anger and frustration and resentment from like things being slowed down or blocked, we need to incorporate that energy into the motivation and drive. But with the moon in Aries, we should be able to tap into that. Really the biggest issues with this full moon is that what we want to do may not be congruent with like the people around us that we're in close relationships with. So it's going to require some compromising, negotiating, disciplining our drive and ego and minds to like put that energy into negotiating and trying to work out an agreement instead, which oppositions are also really good at. So that's really our assignment with this full moon. It's not an easy one. I'm not going to say it's an easy one, but there is, this desire to emotionally to find something new that has to find a balance that doesn't alienate everyone who we're close to in our relationship. So a very interesting full moon. And I really think if we can hammer out a negotiation, then that Saturn, the sextile to Saturn and the trine to Saturn by the sun, And then Mars sextile Aries will give us the opportunities to make some of these changes, that if we can discipline ourselves. All right, that's going to do it for this week. This is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. It is a free service that is on YouTube every week. If you have a YouTube account, become a follower, turn on your notifications, and you'll know when you get the blog every week. Now, remember too, guys, if you're not an astrology, know a lot of astrology, don't so much focus on the astrology terms, but to just listen to the energy of each week and work with that, what I'm saying in between. But please, it is a free service. Please, please, please pass the link on to someone else when you're done today. And, I understand not everyone's going to follow it or want to, like it. But if you can just do that, it, like I said, it's helping the blog grow organically, which I really appreciate. Blog is also available on all kinds of podcasts. It's distributed through Buzzsprout. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple iPod. I podcast, and it's also on Reveal and a bunch of others. Just go to your favorite podcast, look up Astrological Winds channel. Because like I said, it's really no need to really see the video so much. It's the audio that you want to focus on, and a lot of times it's easier to, when you're driving around or doing a jog or a walk or a bike ride, you can listen to a podcast, and it's, don't have to have your eyes attached to a video. I also post a link every week on Instagram. Look up Astrological Winds channel on Instagram if you have an account, and become a follower, and you get bonus material there where I talk about some of the stuff that's going on, some certain key days. Like I said last week with the hurricane hitting, it's just had talked about how the U.S. might get a major disaster the week before in the quarterly book. So kind of stuff that I like to follow up on. And it's also posted on Facebook, the link. You have to friend me though. It's not a public account. Matthew, Matthew, Lawton, Lauten. That's also my Zelle handle. It's at, the symbol at Matthew, and then a hyphen Lawton, Lauten. So if you'd like to give a donation to the blog, no amount is too small. I also have classes available for beginners. They're $25 a class. $20 if you're a student with an ID. I just give you a link into Dropbox, and you can check those classes out. I'm also available for all kinds of events. If you need mini readings done, or an astrology lecture or class, question and answer session, some kind of astrology thing at an event you have, please contact me for any of this stuff. MATTHUE823 @gmail.com. That's the best way to get me. Initiate through an email. So one more time, it's MATTHUE823 @gmail.com. All right, guys, I think that's just going to about do it for this week. And I'll see you all next week. We'll work with this full moon next weekend, try to find that balance between what's emotionally motivating us, and at the same time, not try to alienate the people who are close to us in our life. Find some kind of working agreement. All right, I'll see you all next week.